I built this entire subfloor by myself without any prior experience. Here's how I did it.
Hello friends.
Pink Panther.
New Milwaukee tool, Milwaukee gang only. Ooh, like butter, baby.
Damn, James, letting the comments get to him already.
Heart so big and your ass is huge.
Piggies.
Honestly, gluing should not take very long, huh?
He's gonna regret that one.
Cock gun. Hello friends, it is day 8 of the van build. So the next step is to build the floor. I just went to Home Depot with my dad and we got some materials, and let's just go over them real quick. So first we have the framing of our floor, the most important right here. These are 2x2s. These are relatively cheap, maybe like $4 each. We have 13 of these. Then we have 3 sheets of 4x8 19/32-inch thick plywood, so that will go on top of the frame. And then in between the frames we will insulate it with this right here. This is a 1-inch rigid foam board. It has a R value of 5. Not the best, but you know, it'll do. And then lastly we have some shims. Just in case the floor isn't perfectly even, I'll have to put it underneath so that everything is flush. I have liquid nails. This is used to glue down the wood to the metal for the frame. And then lastly we have some screws to drill the plywood into the frame. Oh, one other thing. We bought this. So in order to cut out the plywood perfectly to fit the bottom of the floor, you kind of need a template. And most people did cardboard online, but I read that this rosin paper, whatever it is good for making a template. It's easier, it's paper. So first step, move everything out so I can fit the frames, the 2x2s. Alright, it is time to lay out the frame and cut some pieces that we have. Here we are just placing down the 2x2s to check the fitting. While we were doing this, we were looking for any uneven bumps on the van floor so that we could either shim it or sand it down so that it would become flat in the end. And if it wasn't flush, I would just play with the beam. Sometimes it's warped on one side so you can rotate it. And sometimes the vertical section of the van was just bumpy, so I would just avoid that row and try to get even support across the floor where I can avoid the weird bumps. New Milwaukee tool, Milwaukee gang only. After all the fittings, I decided where the frame should lay for good, and then I took the measurements for each piece, and then we made many cuts with the new circular saw to get them snug where we want. Alright, that was the first time using a circular saw. You got to witness it. Nothing too crazy though. See if it fits. Ooh, like butter, baby. Here we are just putting the pieces we cut back to double check that they fit. However, on another note, I want to apologize to Jam Squad because how could I fumble the superior name Jam Fam? I know, it's perfect, short and concise, rhymes. So as they say, ride or die for the Jam Fam.
Oh yeah.
Should put on gloves so I don't get flamed.
Like who? Comment section.
Yeah.
Damn, James, letting the comments get to him already.
Yeah. I mean, like they're like, this guy doesn't even practice safe. Here we just got more cutting and more fitting. There's a lot of this, but it's extremely important to make sure your floor is smooth and flat. Alright, we have finished putting in the frame. Although it's not finalized, there's still some stuff to sand down. But as you can see, our 2x2s are placed and labeled. So as you can see, our labeling system starts with 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A, all the way down until we got the horizontal sections and like weird areas. But pretty standard overall. Gonna fill the rest with insulation and hopefully it should be a sturdy floor, subfloor. And now that the plywood is framed out, I have to make the template. So it's actually pretty simple. I'm using this right angle tool to make sure that the distance between my stick and the paper are always straight. That way I can just follow along this line, create some dots, and trace them, as you can see. So, let's get to it. I gotta say, making these templates is straight from like arts and crafts in elementary school. After making the dots, it was just literally connect the dots. Very simple, but efficient way to make a template. So, shout out Rosen Paper, because if it was cardboard, it would have been a nightmare. Heart so big and your ass is huge. Alright. I'm going to cut the template now to see if it fits. I'm gonna shoot. Right up. That's pretty good. So the template sits pretty nicely. It's a little extra space here, but that's fine. They always say to leave a little extra space. So let's go here, across the edges, and that side right there. And now I'll flip it so it fits on this side, and then I'll have to cut my plywood and do this template as well. But all right.
Piggies.
All right, second template, the front template. We are cutting our template. Yes, let's do it. Cutting the plywood template itself is definitely more challenging since the floor layout isn't straight. So since there are curves and edges at the bottom of the van, I had to hand cut those portions with a jigsaw, which is a tad difficult because it's hard to create turns when you're cutting straight. So it was just easier to remove the blade and then come at the wood from a different angle. And after we cut the template, we just moved it back to check how it fits. All right, now this side is blocking that.
It's also hitting here still.
Okay. See here, it's too tight. There's too much space here. This should be pushed in all the way. But it looks pretty good. I'm not a professional by any means, but that doesn't mean I can't aim for perfection or as close as I can get to it. So after seeing this piece was a bit off, I made some hand cuts we pointed out earlier, and
Yes, sir. Nice.
let's go! That's one of 3 pieces. For the front piece closest to the cabinet, we struggled a little bit since the front is very precise with the rectangular space that comes out near the 2 doors. But with all things, you gotta play with it before you give up, and it works out. Is the angle just bad?
Ooh. Ooh.
Don't doubt me. Yes, I have been watching Kaiju number 8 and Hibi no Kafka. I don't know how they got One Republic on their OST, but it's a banger. Anyways, cutting the last piece here, and I didn't want to create another template since I can just mirror the one that we did earlier. Just working smarter, not harder. Everyone, so we just finished fitting all the templates and cutting all the wood and whatnot. Let's just look at how much sawdust there is, and the state of the garage is horrendous. Honestly, glue should not take very long.
You're gonna regret that one.
Oh shit. Okay. So we finally cut out the 3 pieces and they fit quite snug in here. That'll be a sneak peek for later though. You gotta stay till the end of the video. But right now, all I'm gonna do is glue down all my wood pieces now that everything is final. Got myself some liquid nails and a caulk gun. Alright, so the plan is to start from our labeling system, 1A to 9A, and then we just move left to right and down. Everything is glued in. It's pretty flush, I'm happy with it, but there are some spaces, so I'm gonna put some packages and weights just to make sure it's all glued down solid. So gonna see a bunch of stuff on it for the next day. Gluing down the frame is done, and I just put a bunch of like packages, some sneak peeks if you will, of things that will go in the van that are heavier, just to make sure that all the glue is gluing down flat and even. Even though it may not glue completely even, I think it'll be fine since I'm gonna lay insulation in between these tomorrow, and then I'll screw down the plywood down, so it should all be flush anyway. And like minor unevenness shouldn't be able to be felt anyway, so I'll see y'all tomorrow. Alright, the wood glue has finally dried, so the frame feels pretty sturdy in here. Let me show you. So all the frames are glued in, and they are very sturdy. They're not moving. So the next step is just to fill up, well, I gotta measure all these areas and fill it up with rigid foam board. So I gotta measure, cut, and just fill it all up. So we're cutting some foam board. Cutting these foam boards, I can't lie, I was feeling myself. I was really comfortable with the circular saw, and I was doing these cuts freehand after I measured them. I would note that the board doesn't have that much flex to it, so the piece I'm cutting has to fit pretty perfectly. Other than that, I always measured twice before cutting, and I didn't have too much trouble fitting the boards in. Hey ladies and gentlemen, we are done cutting our pieces. As you can see, I already put a good amount of them in, but this is the last chunk. Hopefully everything fits and I can nail in the floor. Big day. Okay, funny story. Basically, I was bringing up this piece of plywood and I knocked over the camera and my lens broke. So you have to deal with iPhone 11 quality for now. Sorry, until I get my lens back. But yeah, we're just screwing in the bolts into the floor now that everything is good. So permanence. For screwing in the actual plywood, it's always best practice to screw from opposite ends first to prevent any warping. So that's exactly what I did. And for knowing where to place the screws into the frame, I actually marked out each of these pieces where the frame lies on the plywood. Can do push-ups. Oh, the floor is sturdy. Look at what we've accomplished. Very nice.
All the 3 pieces of plywood fit. You can see the seam right here. It is very smooth and sturdy. I'm really happy about it. And it all connects up to the end. The only part where I kind of messed up is over here. I didn't leave enough wood, but that's fine because that'll be covered.
Now that the floor is installed, next step is to do some sound deadening. So basically what we had here is this Kill-Mat sound deadening that you're supposed to put on the walls. And basically they say you only need around 25% to actually get the full effectiveness, otherwise it's a waste of material. This stuff is pretty heavy, so it would be a waste to make the car heavier for no reason. The one thing I will be covering a lot is the wheel well though, because a lot of noise comes from there. So let's get to it. Oh, you also got to clean the spot before you put it on, of course. This is actually a smaller precautionary step that some people say is a scam, but after I finished putting all the soundproofing on, I did feel like there was less ambient noise in the van, but that could be a placebo. But regardless, after I installed insulation for the walls, the van should feel pretty private inside, so please stay tuned for the next episode for framing the walls and insulation.